Hello, everybody, and welcome to Real Estate Journeys at Meyer. This is the show where we are going to introduce you to amazing real estate agents like Joe, who you can learn from, you can grow from, and you can see what their journey has been like in the real estate industry.
Great to be here.
Yeah, Joe, thank you so much. Joe, before we get into a lot of the details here and questions that I'm really excited to ask you, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? Where you're from, and where you come from. A little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm a licensed real estate broker with Bond New York Properties. I've been with Bond for 3 years now. Before that, I was with Coldwell Banker Belmark. I also have my broker's license in Florida. So
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
so I got it a couple of years ago, and I spend a lot of time both in Florida and New York. So it was a way to bring business from Florida to New York and from New York to Florida. So,
Fantastic,
yeah.
Cool. A little side note, I know Joe because we live in the same building.
Yes.
And one of the things that Joe does that's it's a small thing, but I think it's a big deal, is we have this board in our building where agents put up like their cards and not agents, anyone puts up like flyers, and I always, so there's never a time where your card is not up there.
Yeah.
And it's a little thing, but you obviously pay attention to make sure it's there. And that's something that that you're dedicated to. So I think it's a cool thing to see you consistently doing that.
Yeah.
But Joe, tell us a little bit about before you got into the real estate industry. What did you do,
Sure.
and how long have you been in the real estate industry?
So I've been in the real estate industry about 5 years now. My background is in accounting and finance. Graduated with an accounting degree, and I concentrated on the financial sector. About a year before I graduated at St. John's University, I was hired by a company called Coopers & Lybrand. They were one of the big 8. They've now shrunk it down combined, so now they're PricewaterhouseCoopers. My clients, I started with them as an associate in their financial industries.
What were you doing? Were you like analyzing numbers? Were you client facing? What were you doing?
Very much so. I was actually analyzing numbers. So we would go line by line of what the firm would provide us and see if there was support documentation that supported those numbers. And if there was things that didn't make sense or things that didn't add up, we'd go back to them, and sometimes they would change those numbers. And when it's finally agreed to and it's signed off, that's when they're actually issued.
Would it be safe to say that you're a detail-oriented numbers person?
Very much so. So not only do you do that, but part of the job is threefold. One is obviously to substantiate the numbers. The other is to actually understand the controls and the processes that create those numbers. So a lot of it is about our listening skills and listening to both what the staff is saying to you about how they're gaining information and understanding some of the trials that they're having at work and to get those numbers together.
Gotcha.
And then you kind of do a control analysis and you provide recommendations. My clients, being in the financial sector, were Goldman Sachs, Salomon Brothers, Fred Alger and Company, Allen and Company. And once you develop really good relationships, the clients ask you to come back to do subsidiary reviews.
Did you go straight from working in that analytical, numbers-oriented role directly into become a real estate agent?
I did. The transition was a little unusual. When I was at Nomura Securities, which was my last job in the financial services industry, I was head of compliance surveillance for the Americas. And again, it was a lot of interviewing, a lot of talking about needs and what the requirements were. During that time, I also started an interior design firm with my sister, who still runs it today. And so I look at space differently. When I come into a space, not only for staging for clients who I'm helping to sell their apartments, but also for buyers. I look at floor plans and I have a different eye on what it is, so I can see the potential in spaces. Would something that's normally selling as a one bedroom be really a convertible to, a comfortable convertible to? So sometimes if the budget is not there, I'll actually look at one bedrooms and see how this would make sense as a 2-bedroom, and if it could.
For people that are watching, if they want to get an understanding of kind of what you're really good at, right? Like your skill set.
Right.
So obviously you have skills in numbers and
Right.
analysis.
Yeah.
You have a good visual eye because you started a interior design
Right.
company. Would that be like the major skill sets that you would identify yourself with?
Yes. I think also too is that I have certain core values. One is I think you're always supposed to be very professional, which I try to be at all times.
You are very
professional. I think it's a very important thing for your clients. I think it's important even if you don't know that someone is a potential client, or listening to your conversation or explaining something to someone else. You never know where that next client is going to come from. I'm also very honest, and I think that in this business, as in any business, you need to be honest. The other thing I think you need to be is really respectful of the process of your time and of the client's time. So I think.
What do you mean by respectful of the process?
So I think a lot of times agents think, oh, I'm not good at that. I won't need to do that. I'll just hire someone to do that, or I'll kind of try to take a little bit of a shortcut because I'm really uncomfortable with this aspect of the job.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the responsibility to have that type of integrity in your work, to be respectful of the whole process and understand the whole process. Because what happens over time is that the clients depend on you to really understand the entire process. And you're often, as I'm sure you're well aware, you teach your clients and you
Mm-hmm.
teach people that aren't even clients what the process represents, like what they should expect as they go through from starting their search until closing, and or preparing a board package. And I think you have to be respectful of that whole process and keep control over that. But you also have to be respectful of your time. So you have to figure out which clients are there to just kind of look and which clients are there to really buy or sell.
So let's jump into kind of the progression of your career. And let's talk for a minute to, let's say, a new agent who is joining the industry that maybe has a similar skill set to you, okay? Let's talk to that agent. And can you maybe give them an idea, how long did it take you till you got your first transaction?
It was about 4 months.
4 months.
So I had figured, I think with any new business, I'm probably more conservative than most, but I plan on 2 years of no income.
Okay.
I not only figure on 2 years of no income, but I figure on 2 years of also having expenses without any income.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're starting up a new business, you're doing promoting and advertising and stuff. So I had a nest egg that I would call a transition fund, if you will, and that's what I use.
You saw it as starting a business.
Yes.
Your business.
It is absolutely a business.
Yes, and it's your business that you're building, and you set aside money to invest in your business. So you didn't just expect that it was going to happen for you. You put money towards building it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to do that with any business.
And how did you get to that first deal that you did 4 months into your business?
For me, it was actually someone that came in. I was doing floor duty at the time, and someone came in, and I was talking with them, and then I was looking at it. It was just really developing that client relationship. They came in, they were looking, they weren't quite sure, and then it was following up. I initially met them through a floor duty, and then it was coming up. But then, as over time, some of the advertisements, some of the mailing, some of the actual email blasts that I do on a monthly basis.
So you're
also bringing that clients.
So the second and the third deal came from all these different marketing activities you were doing?
Absolutely. Sometimes what happens is you have a client that you're working with, and they might not buy something, but if you treat them with the best possible service, even if they don't buy something, you're going to get a recommendation. And this has happened over and over and over again, because they're saying, I trust, recommending this person with the largest purchase a lot of people are going to make.
If I were to ask you, what is the most profitable activity that you do that generates for you the greatest income?
I think for me, it's all about client relationships. So one thing I do that's very profitable is I send out a monthly, if you will, newsletter. Sometimes it's just about fun things to do in the city. During the summer, there's wonderful concerts in the park, and there's movies in Bryant Park, and it's to get people excited about the city, living in the city. I know some clients that have bought pied-à-terres from me actually schedule some of their visits based on these e-blasts that I send out on a monthly basis, because it tells them what's going on in the city, and it's really about that quintessential New York City experience, and so that's what they love.
Did you start this right from the beginning?
I started. I did it more on probably every 2 months, every 3 months, and they were, at first I was trying to get the groove into it, and then I kind of scheduled it not always being the same type of thing. So one month it will be more of a serious sort of thing about what's happening in the mortgage world, what areas are are growing, and then others are more like, the events.
So now let me ask you, for an agent that says, I want to go out there and I want to email people on a monthly basis to get referral business in that way, to get some idea of how big of a list needs to be in order to generate business, and once again, talking to that new agent that's coming into the business, how did you start and how did you build that list initially?
So originally you have your sphere of influence. There's your friends, your families, anyone that you meet. And it's just about every single time you meet someone, there's that opportunity to develop a contact, a client, a friend, a resource. It's always about just building that business.
So would you say that the most profitable activity that you're doing is sending out that email? Do you think most of it comes from there?
It's part of that's a lot of it. There's also referrals. I have different referral systems that I use to come in. There's stuff like Cardis and other referrals that kind of come in. There's advertising that I do. There's advertising my own listings. I think that's a really important thing. There's also, when someone comes into a listing of mine, they see how, one, it's shown, which is super important, and they see the professional marketing materials, they see how I conduct the open houses, and then if that property doesn't work for them, I'm always like, I would love to work with you if they're not working with an agent, and I try to help them find a property that is.
So looking at your career from the beginning, you started out, you had a 2-year nest egg, so to speak, a transition fund, you called it.
Right.
You got your business somewhat lucky after 4 months. Somebody walked into the office, right? Which doesn't happen all that often for most people.
Definitely not.
Very unusual, a very lucky break. And then you had a bunch of other things coming in. How long did it take for your business to get to a point where you were able to sustain yourself, to pay your bills without having to dip into that transition fund?
I think every business has their ups and downs. You just have to be smart about the business. You have to always not just be present in the deals that you are, which you have to be very present in, but you also have to think, what's down the road? What's the newest thing coming out? What do I have to change to grow more business? What niches do I have to look at and explore? Such as like estate sales and stuff like that. That's one that I'm working on. So it's all these different things that I'm looking to break into and to kind of use my background skills of the design and how to make that work.
So, new agent comes into the business like yours.
Yeah.
What should they be focused on to help them get those first deals in, to try to get them to be one of the agents that don't fall out of the business?
Well, I think if I had to do it all over again, I think as a young agent first starting, I would, if it's within your scope to do, I would look to join a team. Okay. I think it's really important for a number of myriad effects. One is, it's a learning business, as we know. We're constantly learning. I'm still learning, God knows. But I think that you have an automatic, if you will, revenue stream, because you're working for a team. There's usually a rainmaker or two in that team that's bringing in business that already has established clientele. And you learn a lot of things. You learn to avoid certain pitfalls that new agents fall in, like how do you know a serious client from a non-serious client? How do you, that we all experience that,
Yeah.
I think in real estate, as in with design, people think it's fun to look at real estate, which it is, fully supportive, but sometimes they don't really recognize the time that you or I put in to scouting out the properties, to making the showing appointments, to doing all the work we do behind the scenes before we go out for the day, and then the follow-up that involves. So I think that a lot of those things, even about how you set up your administrative task, how you set up your calendars, how you set up, is all such a learning experience. And I think if I had to do it all over again, it would be
part of the team.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Just for that learning experience.
Yeah, no, that completely makes sense. So in our company, every day we have a Meyer Accelerator program, and the whole point is to kind of foster this team environment. Because if you're an agent and you just start and you don't have something that you're plugged into every day, that you're hearing about someone else's successes and failures, and you're hearing about a client and what that conversation sounds like, or no one's helping you to get that listing or get that deal, and you do it on your own, it's a steep learning curve.
It is a steep learning curve. It's also, when you are a team or are a part of a team, there's more of an established presence. I think in rentals it's a little bit different because people are just looking for rentals, depending on the tier of rental, if you will. Yeah. But in sales, they're looking, well, what is your experience? How long have you been in the business? So if you're with a team, it's more, even though you are new, the team is not.
Yeah, that's it. And you assume the successes of the team as your own.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Could you walk us through what the journey was like so far over those 5 years? And I know you're nowhere near done with your career course, but just curious what that journey is like. What's Joe's journey?
One of the things I'm doing is actually developing a business for to look at estate sales, and this kind of started a while ago. I think as agents, we are a resource for a lot of people every day that could walk into our doors or that we meet. Just explain the process, and also if they need carpenters or interior designers or painters, we're just that source to attorneys, mortgage brokers. So I think that I'm working on a plan that would be like a one-stop shop for people that lose a loved one and have to get rid of a lot of the estate pieces. It's about working with consignment people and appraisers and packers and movers and painters and everything.
And you found the niche that you can then
Right.
you can dig deep in. What is on your real estate bucket list? What are you looking as you continue
God.
journeying forward?
Right.
What are you looking to accomplish? What are you looking to achieve?
I think I definitely want to expand my marketing campaign. That's huge. I also want to look at what's the next step in marketing to get my business out there. I want to work more with developers. That's something that's been in the back of my head for that. I almost want to get in on the ground zero with developers.
Have you hired any coaches or an assistant or employees? Have you hired anyone for your business?
I haven't hired an assistant yet. I have hired a social media company to come in and look at my social media presence because it was very sad. It's not much better. I'm working on it. It's not much better.
So were they giving you a report?
They did. They kind of gave me a report about how many hits. They kind of looked at the site. They kind of different sites that I was on. They wanted to see if there was some kind of connectivity. They also wanted to look to see how to have my name come up more to the top than it was currently coming up.
Is that something that you're going to look to implement?
Yes. So I already had them do that, and then so for every year, I want to bring them back to kind of do a renew.
Gotcha.
And say, because as our business changes and we look to do different things and we think of different things, is we also want our social media to always be evolving and our presence to be evolving.
So let me ask you this. What do you think are the 3 things that an agent needs to have in order to be successful in this business?
I think they need to have good time management skills. That's critical because I think you can really kind of offshoot and get lost in it. I think you have to be super professional and have integrity in your work. I think, that really shines through. And, we're at a precipice where a lot of people think that they understand the business. They watch these reality or what I call non-reality shows about real estate, and they think that's really what it is. And, it's a lot about educating, but it's also about doing that time with the client. And I also think that you always have to be looking for the next expansion of your business. It's always about expanding. It's always about how do I grow this business by 20% or each year. And I think that you always look for that thing. Sometimes it's niches, sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it's changing your advertising.
And it looks like just right now you're talking about an estate, looking in that, and at the same time you have a social media consulting company reviewing you, so you're looking at growing in multiple ways.
Exactly.
So how do you play to your strengths as an agent?
Well, one of the things I do is listen, and I think that cannot be underscored. I think that there's 2 things. You listen to a client and what they want, and then you also observe.
So do you have a team, or how does your business structured?
So I don't have a formal team. I do work with a colleague of mine. We both had family needs that called our attention too. So what we did was we both wanted to service our clients and give that level of quality service. So when we do have to take care of our parents, one is in town at all times so that our clients have full coverage of 24/7. We both have very different skill sets, but we both respect that skill set that each brings to the table. And so it's a really wonderful thing. And another opportunity, I think, for agents, they don't have to necessarily join a formal team, but they can join forces with another agent that they feel they really work well together. It takes a few transactions. I mean, the first transaction, you're learning about each other, you're give and take, what are you doing, but by the third one, you should have a pretty darn good idea if that's the person that you work well with.
It's interesting you say that. So when people join Meyer, we actually have in our policy manual, if people want to default on a company business plan, the business plan is you start off by having a mentor, somebody will help you.
Which is great.
And then you transition, if you want, to have a partnership with someone,
right,
which is very different than having a team.
Right.
Because in a team, you do everything together. If you had a team, I could talk to either one of you and it's the same person,
right,
essentially, from the company's perspective.
Right.
But when you have a partnership, you can have, I partner with you on rentals because you're a great rental agent, and I partner with you on an international client of mine because they're French and you're French, and
Right.
different things like that. And we have a few agents that even partner on working Zillow leads, for example,
Right.
and they're phenomenal because they complement each other. Do you believe anybody's cut out to be a real estate agent?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. I think that I think you have to. One is I think you have to have. It goes back to that professionalism. I think you have to not only look the part of being a professional. I don't mean you have to wear a suit and tie, but I think that you always have to look somewhat put together.
Mm-hmm.
I also think you have to keep your wits about you, as we all know in these times. The market can be crazy at times, and it's a very emotional purchase for a lot of people. So I think you have to think before you speak. Take a second. I think even if a deal, which they do out of no fault of our own, sometimes they fall apart, is that I think if you're always professional and always honest and always give your client updates. I give my clients updates at least on a weekly basis, if not twice a week, because I never want a client to come to me and say, Joe, what's going on with this? Then I haven't done my job. So I always kind of keep them abreast of everything that's going on every step of the way, because even if a deal falls through, if there's disappointment that the deal fell through, they won't be disappointed with you, because they'll know you've done absolutely everything, because you are the coordinator between the attorneys, the bankers, the clients, the sellers, their agents. You're really kind of a whole mix of things.
What would you say an agent should ask themselves to have a little bit of an internal dialogue to decide if they're really cut out for this industry?
I think one is, am I going to treat this as a business? Because it absolutely is a business. I also think you have to think yourself, am I a good time manager? And if you're not, how do you improve that skill? I don't think it's something that you can improve if you're coming to this business and not everyone has those time management skills, or I think if you're shyer, you have to figure out what environment you can put yourself in that makes not only you comfortable, but makes you really shine. It's about learning to be confident, and that's kind of, it goes back to that team thing. I think that team is kind of where you kind of get that confidence because you're represented as part of a whole, and you learn and you have this mentor built in to a team, hopefully, if it's a good team.
Yeah.
It's about realizing that everything is an opportunity, if you make it so. So you really have to look at that and say, how do I? It's not only being in a situation, but it's at the end of the night when you come home from a networking thing or whatever. You look at yourself and say, did I make the most of that opportunity? And I think you make a plan for yourself and you kind of post it wherever, whether it's in your office, at your desk, if it's at home.
Do you have certain things that you post?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask what that is?
Well, I think about, like, I post out like a year and 2 years and stuff. So one is that business plan. So I kind of say, okay, these are the steps I have to do to get to, this is what I want ultimately down the road. This is what I want, to accomplish within the next 6 months. It's work, and it's, if you're committed to it and you love it, and if it's not working, you have to figure out what's not working, and you have to shake it up sometimes. Some of the most successful things I've done in life are things that have pulled me right out of my comfort zone. And so, real estate was one of those. And I also have the business acumen. So I was like, do I have the components to make that? And, I'm most certainly not the most successful agent, in the wrong things, but every day if I'm learning, that's great.
So I'll ask you a couple of quick, just wrap-up questions.
Sure.
First of all, I'm going to throw you a few fire random questions, okay?
Oh, God,
okay. Question number one, do you think that a real estate agent needs to be a good salesperson?
Yes, I do. I think they need to be a genuine salesperson, because I think people can detect baloney.
Gotcha. What do you think is the most important single trait that most successful real estate agents have?
Follow through.
What would you say is the one thing that most agents that are not successful do or have in common?
They don't follow up. They don't follow up. They don't take it seriously as a business. And I think that, it is a business. It's, why are you in it? You're not paying. It's much harder to build a business than to go to work for a business. I've done both. I can tell you. If you're getting a paycheck every day, every week, or every 2 weeks, and it's guaranteed, it's easier.
So, Joe, last thing I wanted to bring up over here is why I asked you to be on this show. And the reason I asked you to be on the show is
No
because
one else said they would.
No, it's because you're an honest person, and this show is all about helping other agents and showing even consumers what the journey of a real estate agent is.
Right.
And a lot of people think that either this business is a lot easier than it actually is,
Right.
or they watch reality TV that shows the fun times but the unrealistic times
Exactly.
of our business, right?
Yes.
We all wish we lived a reality show lifestyle. It's not real. So I wanted to show people the real life, the real ups, the real downs. While you're looking at the last 5 years, what was the hardest point you had?
I think the hardest point for me was there was a lot of downtime. And I think also, too, is I've learned to be a little bit more cynical, with a cynical eye of looking at deciding who's the serious buyers and sellers and who are not. You always hope that people are going to be honest with you, but that's been probably for me a little bit of a hard reality.
Gotcha.
You know?
So you have the opportunity now to talk to the entire nation, the whole world of
God.
real estate agents.
Okay.
And this is your opportunity to impart to them a piece of advice, something that they can use, a new agent, an experienced agent, whoever it is that you want to impact the most. What is something that you'd want to share with them? Share it with them.
I think for what I would share with you is just to really trust your instincts. Have a business plan. It's really important. Stick with your business plan. Treat your business as a business. And figure out if something's not working, why it's not working, and if you have to change it, change it. But give it the time it deserves. I think you have to respect the business, respect the process, and absolutely respect your clients. Because no matter what, they are your business. And everyone you come in contact with, keep a professional demeanor, because that person could be your next business.
Joe, thank you so much for coming
You're
on this
welcome,
show. You are
Good to
an
be with
agent that deserves every referral that should come your way. Thank you for being honest.
Thank
Thank you for sharing with everybody.
Pleasure.
And dude, you're a rock star. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Take care.